So we begin the last journey or the last module of the CC. So which is the chapter 5. So it's all about security operations, right? So we dive into the day-to-day or moment-by-moment or active use of security controls and risk mitigation strategy of organizations. These are the things that that the employees or the staffs are using day by day to perform their job. So here you will explore ways to secure data and systems they reside on, as well as how to encourage secure practices among people who interact with the data and system. So the first one is that we talk about the data security, system admin. System admin is still the same thing, patching your system. Best practice security policies and security awareness training will be the last domain. So these are the objectives or the goals. So we explain the concept of security operations, how to handle data, important concept of logging and monitoring. We summarize different types of encryptions and their common uses. We describe concepts of configuration management, application of common security policies, and the importance of security awareness training to the staffs or your employees. So let's start from data security, right? So let's talk about data handling, how we handle data, how we retain data. So data goes through a life cycle as users create, use, share, and modify it. So many different models of the data lifecycle can be found, and all have basic operational steps in common. The data security lifecycle model, as seen in the figure 5.1, is useful because it easily aligns with roles that people and organizations perform during the evolution of data, from creation to destruction of data. You collect data from customers, from people interfacing with your services, you collect their data, their personal data, like their name, their username, their password. That's where you collect. Then you will save it somewhere, right? And before actually disposing or destroying those data. So there are many things to them. We talk about how to secure all of those data, right? Like how many years or how many months do you want that data to use your server or your database before destroying those data or deleting it or disposing it. So it also helps put the different data states of in use, at rest, and in motion into context. Let's take a closer look. I think we've talked about a data being at rest, a data being in motion, right? I think we talked about something like that. So all ideas, data, information, and knowledge go through 6 major phases during their lifetime. These are the phases that the data goes through, right? The first one is creation of the knowledge, which was previously undocumented. This is where you will collect users' data, their email, their address, their SSN, their BVN. That's the first phase, right? The second phase is you will store or record it in some fashion that makes it explicit. So you will store this data, basically maybe your database or your server somewhere. That's the second phase. The first one is collect. The second is that you will store those data somewhere, right? The third phase is that using the knowledge, which may cause the information to be modified, supplemented, or partially deleted. The fourth phase is sharing the data with other users, whether as a copy or by moving the data from one location to another. The fifth one is archiving the data when it is temporarily not needed. And the last phase is destroying the data when it is no longer needed. So those are the 6 phases of data lifecycle. So this is where you will create the data, you will collect data from users. This is where you will store it, your database or your server, This is where you will use it for, basically, maybe you are collecting those data so that the user can interact with your domain. Then this is where you will share the data, right? Then this is where you will archive the data if you are not using it. Then after the 5 process, then you can destroy those data. If not needed anymore, you can destroy it. So data handling is extremely important. As soon as you receive assets or data that you need to protect, you need to know the best practices for handling it, right? So first, you need to recognize which assets to protect. We've been talking of, like we've been discussing about knowing the data that you can actually put money on, right? Since when we started the whole course. So the first is that you need to recognize which assets to protect. This is based on the data's value, right? You put money on something that has value. You don't buy a padlock of 1 million to protect something of 500,000. Doesn't make sense, right? This kind of risk and vulnerability you face with respect to information being compromised, destroyed, or changed by enemies must be acknowledged and accounted for, right? So maybe possibly through logging or anything like that, or through auditing. So this is the life cycle of data handling, from create to store, to use, to share, to archive, to destroy. Those are the 6 phases of data lifecycle. At any point, there are different risks to the data and different practices for handling those data. Some of these procedures are mandated by government standards that an organization needs to follow. Some of them are mandated by government that if you collect users' data, you must destroy those data or you must retain those data for like 6 months. You shouldn't use more than 6 months in your space before destroying those data. So basically, government can actually have a mandate on how you can handle that. For example, the US, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is the federal government agency that protects the well-being of workers. Under the rules of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, (HIPAA), medical record needs to be kept for 10 years. That's the retention period for 10 years. But under us, if we have a medical needs to be maintained for more than 30 years. So even after the employee's last day of work in the organization, you still retain that data for 30 years. So that's regulatory, that's a regulatory requirement. And if it is not abided by, the result can be penalties and fines. If you don't follow those rules and regulations, there is a penalty for that. So you must be cautious when deciding how to handle data, as there may be multiple regulations that apply to a single piece. Also in the US, there are specific sorry, let me check if it was still. Okay, I think it was still. So in US, there are specific guidelines related to PCI DSS. Sorry, we actually talked about PCI DSS. What do they do? Card industry and is there now. So what do they do? Yeah, they have to follow. So regarding credit card information, how to maintain it securely. So in the European Union, the GDPR also has specific requirements regarding the handling of financial data. To project data properly, all the relevant requirements for the types of data being protected in various geographic areas must be known. So if you are dealing with EU, European Union, you have to follow GDPR. That's the standard. If you are in Nigeria and you are dealing with EU database, right, you have to follow those GDPR standards. So if they have their policies, you can download it. As an organization, you must read it and understand it. And if you don't follow those rules, then there will be a penalty, or they will cancel you from actually dealing with, or cancel your transaction with EU country entirely. So many countries and jurisdiction have regulations that require a certain data protection throughout every stage of data lifecycle. This governs how the data is acquired, processed, stored, and ultimately destroyed. So when looking at the data lifecycle, we need to keep a watchful eye and protect information at every stage, even if it's ready to be legally destroyed at the end of the lifecycle. In some cases, multiple jurisdictions may impose rules affecting the data. In this instance, we need to be aware of all regulations that affect the data. And among the regulations are those that we've mentioned before: PCI DSS, GDPR, and we have others too. Anyways, so let's check how to handle data handling practices. Data has value and must be handled appropriately. In this section, we explore the basics of classifying and labeling data to ensure it is treated and controlled in a manner consistent with the data's sensitivity. In addition, you review what's required to complete the data lifecycle by documenting retention requirements and ensuring the destruction of data that's no longer in use. So the first one, let's take classification. So business recognize that information has value and that others might use the advantage if the information is not kept confidential. So business classify data. Sorry. So during the data classification process, an initial step is to determine the level of confidentiality, which then determines the labeling, the handling, and use of the data. So there are some data that you have to label, maybe confidential or secret. It's after you label all those data that you can now know how to handle or how you are going to use those data. So before labels can be attached to data sets that indicate sensitivity or handling requirement, the potential impact or loss to the organization needs to be assessed. Classification is the process of recognizing the organizational impact should information suffer security compromise related to its characteristics of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Information is then labeled and handled accordingly, according to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So classifications are derived from laws, regulations, contract specified standards, or other business expectation. One classification might indicate the risk as minor. Some might say it's minor, some might say it's major, some will say it's critical, some might even say it's informational, right? So may disrupt some processes, while a more extreme risk might be labeled grave, right? It could be a grave defect and could lead to loss of life or threaten the organization's ongoing existence. So classification description should reflect the ways in which the organization has chosen or been mandated to characterize and manage this. So that's classification. You have to classify your data. Is the data, confidential? It is, it is minor? It is major? Is the data grave? Then after that, you can label the data. So labeling, security labels are part of implementing control to protect various categories of information. It is reasonable to want a simple way of assigning a level of sensitivity to a data asset, such that the higher the level, the greater the presumed harm to the organization, and thus the greater security protection the data assets requires. Why this approach is useful? It should not be taken to mean that clear and precise boundary exists between classification label, such as low sensitivity and moderate sensitivity or high sensitivity, for example. So data sensitivity levels and labels. Unless otherwise mandated, organizations are free to create classification systems that best meet their own needs. So organizations can just sit down and decide that, okay, these sets or segments of data are going to be high risk, or this is going to be a low risk data, or this is going to be a medium risk data, without being mandated by the government or any standards. So they can make that decision on their own. So in professional practice, it is typically best if the organization has enough classification to distinguish between sets of assets with different sensitivity or value, but not so many classifications that the distinction between each is confusing to individual. At least you are not actually learning it. You should actually understand what you get. So typically, 2 or 3 classifications are manageable, and more than 4 tends to be difficult, highly restricted. So compromise of data with this sensitivity label, when we have data that is highly restricted. So the compromise of data with this sensitivity label could possibly put an organization's future existence at risk. Compromise could lead to substantial loss of life, injury, or property damage, and the litigation and claim that will follow. So imagine a nuclear weapon country or company being hacked, and attackers are launching those nuclear weapons to maybe US and other countries. So normally those data are highly restricted. It shouldn't, be allowed to actually anybody or the staff that don't have access to such information should have access to such information. It should be restricted to maybe the admin or the people that should have access to such information. So if an attacker, unauthorized users or personnel has access to highly restricted, sensitive data, then they can actually perform some things that can actually jeopardize the existence of that organization. That's highly restricted data. Moderately restricted data. Compromise of data with this sensitivity level could lead to loss of temporary competitive advantage, loss of revenue, or disruption of planned investments or activities. Then we have low sensitivity, sometimes called internal use only. Compromise of data with this sensitivity label will cause minor disruptions, delays, or impacts. Then we have unrestricted public data. As this data is already published, no harm can come from further dissemination or disclosure. Basically, these are the labels that you can put on your data. It can either be highly restricted, moderately restricted, low sensitivity, or unrestricted public data. So let's go to retention. Information and data should be kept only for as long as it is beneficial. For various data types, certain industry standards, laws, and regulations define retention periods. If there are no external requirements for data, the organization is responsible for defining and implementing its own data retention policy. So they can sit down and decide that, okay, after collecting the users or the consumer data, it shouldn't use more than 10 years in our data center before trying to dispose or destroy those data. So data retention policies are applicable for hard copy and electronic data, and no data should be kept beyond its required or useful life. So security professionals should ensure that data destruction is performed when an asset reaches retention limits. Organizations should conduct a periodic review of retained records to reduce the volume of information stored and to ensure that only necessary information is preserved. To records retention policies. That indicates how long an organization is required to maintain information and assets. That's policy retention, records retention. So policies should be written in a way that personnel understand the various retention requirements for data of different types throughout the organization. Also, the organization appropriately documents the retention requirements for each type of information. The last one, the organization system processes and individual retain information in accordance with the required schedule, but no longer than that. We are going to retain customer data for 10 years. Don't let it be more than that. So a common mistake with record retention is applying the longest retention period to all types of information and organization. This not only wastes storage, but also increase risk of data exposure and adds unnecessary noise when searching or processing information contained in relevant records. So you're keeping the consumer or the customer data in your database. Firstly, you are consuming some space, right? So the data that shouldn't use more than 5 months, why do you want to retain it for 10 years? So that's like wastage of money and resources. Then we have the structure. Data that might be left for media after deletion is known as remnants and maybe significant security concern. Steps must be taken to reduce the risk to an acceptable level that data remnants could compromise sensitive information. So this can be done by one of the several means. These are the ways we can destroy data. First one is clearing the device or system, which usually involve writing multiple patterns of random values throughout all the storage media, such as main memory, register, and fixed storage. This is sometimes called overwriting or zeroing the system. Although writing zeros has the risk that a missed block or storage extent may still contain recoverable sensitive information after the process is completed. So they will take the hard drive, for example, and they will just put some jargon information just to actually, to make it unclear to people. One way. Another way is by purging a device or system, which eliminates or greatly reduces the chances that residual effect from the writing of the original data values may still be recovered even after the system is cleared. Then we have physical destruction of a device. So magnetic or optical disk and some flash drive technology may require being mechanically shredded, chopped or broken up, etched in acid or burned. Their remains may be buried in protected landfills in some cases. So these are the 3 ways of how to destroy data. Because there are ways that attackers can actually take an hard drive, right, and recover everything on that hard drive again. So you will just take hard drive and just format that hard drive, but it can also be reinstalled again. So Those are proactive security practitioners. Like to put security in place before any occurrence at all, before anything happens. They want security to be in place. So they spend their time reviewing data, which has been aggregated into actionable information via monitoring system or log files. This is an example of monitoring system. And we have log files as well, whereby all those logs will be stored as. Then you can just go to those log files and try to make sense of all the events that is occurring within the organization. So you cannot defend against an attack which you are not aware of. You defend what you can see. What you cannot see, you cannot defend. It's when you see an event or an alert or notification that someone is trying to break into your network that you will now know the type of security mechanism to put in place to fight such an action. So this section discusses the high-level concepts around event management, how we manage events. The following diagram showcases an example of a community-based threat intelligence tool, which provides proactive information regarding threat activities that is ongoing. So this SIM tool, right? This example, this Alien Vault, we have different SIM tools. This Alien Vault, one of them, Microsoft too has, Microsoft Sentinel, Google too has, and many other vendors like that have SIM tools that you can use to monitor all the events or activities that is ongoing in your devices. So this is for Alien Vault. It's called Alien Vault. So this type of risk, in this, if you see this this occurred, this is the date that this event occurred, 2020, January on the 24th. So this event occurred and it has not been closed. That means it has not been resolved. It's still open, right? So when it is resolved, the status will change to close or completed. But as it is now, it is open. That means that event is still current. So the Alien Vault, this SQL injection attempt. So SQL injection attempt is we try to impute some, some malicious, code into what you are sending to the database, right? So actually bring everything out for you, what you are not supposed to see. So then the risk, we talked about risk yesterday. So this risk has been labeled to be high. It's high risk, right? And OTH is known, the source is from Alien Vault, which is the tool that we are using to actually analyze the event. And this is the host IP address. So this host IP address is where the event is currently occurring. This IP address belongs to one device or one laptop or one database. So this is happening for this individual, right? 172.20.1.131. That IP address, if they can trace it back to the owner, then they can resolve the issue. So this is another example. So this is raw data before normalizing it here, right? But this is the raw data when it first logs to that event. So to the SIM, to the tool. So logging is the primary form of instrumentation that attempts to capture signal generated by events. So events are any actions that take place within a system environment and cause measurable or observable change in one or more elements or resources within the system. That's an event. It's any activity that is ongoing in your network. So one example of raw log data is shown above figure 5.4. This is how it looks like. This is the raw data. So logging imposes a computational cost, but it is invaluable when determining accountability. Proper design of logging environments and regular log review remains best practices regardless of the type of computer system. So in anything, any system or any laptop or any database, you must be able to have an insight on what is going on within them. And the only way to actually know what is going on is through log. And those log cannot be, you can't be checking it one after the other. You have to log them into one central location where you can manage all the devices. So these are the information that is relevant to be logged and reviewed while using your SIM tools. First one is user IDs. Like, who is the user? Where is the event occurring? Which user device? Then system activities. You need to log system activities too, right? The dates and times of key events, when those events are occurring or when they happen. And maybe they log on, or when the time they log on, or the time they log off, or the dates they log on to that device, or the time they log off from that device. We have device and location identity. You have to actually know where the event is coming from, where the activity is coming from. Is the activity coming from the permitted location or from unpermitted location or geolocation? So successful and rejected system and resources access attempts. You have to know which of the attempts are successful and which are rejected. Then you have to know the system configuration changes and system protection activation and deactivation effects. So you have to know if they change anything from the system. Maybe they try to log into the jump cloud. Jump cloud is one of the monitoring tools. And maybe the admin itself try to log in to that interface and change something so that when he or she perform any malicious activity, it will not be seen in the log. So they will try to clear their track. So logging and monitoring the health of the information environment is essential to identifying inefficient or improperly performing system. So log reviews are an essential function, not only for security assessment and testing, but also for identifying security incidents, policy violations, fraudulent activities, and operational problems near the time of occurrence. These are not another reason why we log data or events. To actually check security incidents, to check if there is any policy violation within the organization, to check if there is any fraudulent activities ongoing within the system, and also the operational problem near the time of occurrence. So log reviews support audits as well. When an auditor is coming to your organization, right, you can just go to your log system and pull out all the logs and give it to the auditor. That, okay, this is what we've been battling with since, so you can check yourself. Controls are implemented to protect against unauthorized changes to the log event, to the log information. So operational problems with logging are often related to alterations to recorded messages, edited or deleted log files, and storage capacity of log file media being exceeded. Like I said, even your staff, the employee of an organization, can try to perform some malicious activities. Because they have access to that tool, they can decide to delete the activity that is logged into the central location. Because they have that permission, they can just go to the log and delete it, so that even if an auditor is coming, they will not see that their track, that, okay, you are an administrator, why do you perform this activity? So they will try to clear their track so that they will not be caught. So you have to put some control in place so that even if they delete it, it will still be logged. So organization must adhere to retention policy for logs as prescribed by law, regulation, and corporate governance. Since attackers want to hide the evidence of an attack, the organization policies and procedures should address the preservation of original logs, right? So additionally, logs contain valuable and sensitive information about the organization. So let's check event logging best practices, how to perform it in the best manner. Okay. Yes, it's a type of tool. It's a tool used to log events. Jump cloud. Yes. Sentinel tool is an example. Microsoft Sentinel. So we have events logging best practices. How to go about logging your event, the best practice on how to log it. Different tools are used to log events depending on whether the attack risk is from traffic coming into or leaving the infrastructure. Ingress monitoring refers to the surveillance and assessment of all inbound communication traffic and access attempts. All the traffic that is coming into your network is called ingress, right? So, and these are the devices that are used to monitor the ingress, log or traffic or communication into your network. The first one is firewalls, right? We can use firewall to log events coming into your organization. We can use gateways like routers to log it. We can use remote authentication server like AAA. We can use intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention system tools to log it as well. We can use SIM solutions to log all the event that is coming, all the traffic that is coming to your network. And we can use anti-malware solutions to log them. Because all these tools, they have the feature where they can log the events, the activities that is occurring within them. So then we have egress monitoring. Egress monitoring is used to regulate data leaving the organization out the environment. Ingress is data coming in or communication that is coming to your organization. Egress is the one going out from your organization. This is also known as data loss prevention or data leak protection, right? A DLP solution should be deployed so that it can inspect all forms of data leaving the organization. And these are the tools you can use. So you can use email. Sorry, a DLP solution should be deployed so that it can inspect all forms of data leaving the organization. These are the data that can leave your organization. For example, email. You're sending out an email, right? There should be a DLP solution in place that will filter or check the sensitivity of the message that you are sending out of the organization. It is permitted to send that kind of information out from the organization. If it's permitted, then the DLP will allow you to send it. But if it is not, then it will stop you from sending it. It will tell you, it will trust and notification to you that this sensitive information that you are trying to send is not permitted by the admin. So you won't have any other choice because you can't even send it. But there are so many ways that they can bypass it. But through email, you cannot. So also, if you are trying to copy a data, an organization data to your flash drive or your USB drive, you won't be able to. It will not permit you to actually copy it. Also, if you are using FTP, right? What's the port number for FTP? Is FTP secure or unsecure? So if you are trying to use unsecure protocol, it will tell you that you can't use it. So using DLP. Also, if DLP is in place, posting to web pages or websites, if you are posting sensitive information about your organization to any website, then DLP will allow to the admin that you are doing that somewhere, right? So then if you are using any API that is insecure or unsafe, then it will log an admin as well. So let's check encryption. So basically this is cryptography, right? So encryption protects personal and business transactions, digitally signed software updates, verify a creator or supplier claim to authenticity. So digitally signed contracts binding all parties are routinely exchanged via email without fear of being repudiated later by the sender. So the purpose of encryption is to encode a message, to put it in a form that, third party will not be able to actually comprehend. They won't understand what you are sending. It will just look like rubbish. What's this guy sending? So for the third party, it's also called ciphertext. So we still talk about it. Cryptography is used to protect information by keeping its meaning or content secret and making it unintelligible to someone who does not have way to decrypt or unlock that. So that person will not have insight about what you are sending. So it's basically used to actually keep information secret, sensitive information secret from the third party, so that they will not understand the information you are sending to the other person. So even if there is mind in the middle, trying to actually filter the traffic. When they see that the information, they won't be able to actually understand because they don't have the key to actually decrypt what you're trying to say to the other person. So the objective of every encryption system is to transform an original set of data called plain text, something you can read, something that is meaningful to human being. It's plain text you can comprehend. So encryption will convert that plain text, what you can read, what you can understand, to unintelligible encrypted form or ciphertext, to something that is, you can't comprehend, you can't even know what it means. So that's encryption. So encryption is used to actually convert plain text into ciphertext. So properly used alone or in combination, cryptographic solution provide a range of services that can help achieve required system security posture in many ways. And these are the ways. These are the objectives of cryptography. The first one is to protect the confidentiality of a system, right? So cryptography provides confidentiality by hiding or obscuring a message so that it cannot be understood by anyone except the intended recipient. So that's confidentiality. And confidentiality keeps information secret from those who are not authorized to have it. So that's one of the objectives of cryptography, confidentiality. Another one is integrity, right? So as hash functions and digital signatures can provide integrity services that allow a recipient to verify a message has not been uttered on malice or error. Like we said the other time, that we use an hash value to check if a vendor application is what is complete or is basically correct. So this includes simple message integrity control. Any changes, deliberate or accidental, will result in two results by sender and by recipient being different. So if you try to tamper with the message, the hash function will change. So if you are trying to download any software, and you see the hash function in the vendor website, that the hash function is 256. And when you downloaded your own, you are seeing 254. That means the integrity of that software has been tampered with. So that means that's not legitimate software. So this is how it works. This is the plain text, the message that you can understand. And it's being put into some algorithm, some crypto variables, right? Using the encryption key. The encryption key can be symmetric or asymmetric. We still talk about it. Then it's converted to ciphertext, right? Something you cannot understand. From what you can understand, what you cannot understand. And from the recipient side of things, the recipient will use the decryption key, right, to change the message from plain text from ciphertext to plain text again, right? So let's actually talk more about that. An encryption system, as shown in figure 5.5, is a set of hardware. It can be software, it can be an algorithm, it can be a control parameters, an operational method that provide a set of encryption services. That's an encryption system. So plain text, as discussed, is the data or message in its normal unencrypted form and format. That's plain text. So plain text can be an image, it can be an audio, it can be video, it can be human readable text, like what we are seeing here. It can be database files or records and field within a database. And it can be anything that can be represented in digital form for computer processing, transmission, and storage. That's types of plain text. Then let's go into symmetric encryption. These are types of encryption. The first one is symmetric encryption. So the central characteristic of a symmetric algorithm is that it uses same key during both the encryption and decryption process. So in symmetric uses a single key, or what we know as shared key, to decrypt and to encrypt. It uses a single key. That's asymmetric. It uses a single key to encrypt and to decrypt. So it could be said that the decryption process is a mirror image of the encryption process. So this is how it works. This is the sender. The sender trying to send a plain text, and it went through encryption process using symmetric key, then to the ciphertext, to what you cannot actually comprehend. Then from the receiver side will use that same key, the symmetric key again, to decrypt the ciphertext into the plain text. So out of band is just a secondary means of sending that, from sending that key from unencrypted, transmission. So you don't want to send that same key, that symmetric key, through internet, because we all know that internet is not safe. And there's a probability that there is man in the middle in between you guys. So the secondary means of sending that message, of sending that key to the receiver is known as out-of-band key distribution. It can be through phone call, can try to go and meet a person somewhere, can try to actually send courier or anything to that person, but you don't want to use unsecure means of transmission to send that, to send a key. So since the same key is used for both encryption and decryption, the two parties communicating need to share knowledge of the same key. So this type of algorithm adds a layer of data protection, since a person who does not have the correct key will not be able to read the encrypted message. Right? It's until you have the key that is used to encrypt that data that you can actually decrypt the data. If you don't have the key, you can't. So these are the security challenges that may arise, using unsecure transmission, protocol. If two parties suspect a specific communication path between them is compromised, right? If one of them thinks that I think I've been hacked, so don't try to send that key through this means, then they obviously can share the key material along the path. So someone who has compromised communication between parties likely will also intercept a key, because you are sending that key through an unsecure means. That means that key can actually be intercepted by someone sitting at the middle. So that means they can just, hijack that key and try to decrypt the message you are trying to send. So you want to send the message through a secure means. Then also, distribution of a key is difficult because the key cannot be sent in the same channel as the encrypted message, or a man in the middle could gain access to the key. So sending the key through a different channel band than the encrypted message is called out-of-band key distribution, like I explained. So you are trying to send it through secondary means because you think the primary means has been compromised. So it is called out-of-band key distribution. So example of out-of-band key distribution, we include sending the key via courier, fax, or phone. So also any party with knowledge of the key can access and therefore change the message. If you have the key, you can access the message and can decide to, to edit that message. Also, each individual or group of people wishing to communicate will need to use a different key for each individual group with whom they want to connect. So this arises the challenge of scalability. The number of keys needed grows as the number of different users or group increases. So that's where we'll be talking about asymmetric key encryption. These are the primary uses of symmetric algorithm. These are where we use symmetric algorithm. When you are trying to when you're trying to encrypt a bulk data, you use symmetric key because they have capability to encrypt bulk data, right? Also, when you are encrypting message, traversing communication channel using IPsec or TLS, you can also use symmetric key. You can use symmetric key while streaming large-scale or time-sensitive data. You can actually use symmetric key in this. Okay. So these are the other names that we can call symmetric key. You can call them same key You can call it single key. You can call it shared key. You can call it secret key, or we can call it session key. These are the other names that we can call symmetric key. We can also call it, okay, we can call it private key. So an example of symmetric encryption is a substitution cipher where you try to actually place some alphabets. You can put B where it's supposed to be, or put C where D is supposed to be, or E where F is supposed to be. So that's substitution cipher. This is the example. We're trying to put H where A is, G where Z is, and like that. So it's an example of symmetric encryption. So then we have asymmetric encryption. So asymmetric encryption, that's the second type of encryption. Here it uses one key to encrypt and a different key to decrypt the input ciphertext, plain text, I mean. So like we said, symmetric key uses just a single key to encrypt and to decrypt. But here, asymmetric is using a double key, two keys, which is private key and public key. So this is a stark contrast to symmetric encryption, which uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt. Within most security teams, asymmetric encryption is left to the crypt analysts and cryptographers. A user wishing to communicate using asymmetric algorithm will first generate a key pair, right? There's a way you will generate this. You first generate a key pair. You have your private key and you have your public key. You use your private key to encrypt. You use your public key to encrypt, then the recipient will use their private key to decrypt. Basically, you will use someone you are sending the message to, the information to, right? That person will generate a pair key, an asymmetric key, public key and private key. Then that person will send his or her public key to you to encrypt that information that you are trying to send to him or her. Then when the receiver receives that message, they will use their own private key to decrypt the message. That's clear, right? So to ensure the strength of the key generation process, this is usually done by cryptographic application or public key infrastructure, PKI, implementation without using involvement. One half of the key pairs is kept secret, which is the private part of the key. It's kept secret. Only the key holder knows that key, hence why it is called a private key. It must be kept secret. That's why we call it private key. The public key can be public to everyone that wants to send you the message, but you must make sure that the private key is safe with you. So the other half of the key pair can be given freely to anyone who wants a copy. Maybe the person that wants to actually encrypt a message and send to you can send your public key to them. So in many companies, it may be available through a corporate website or access to a key server. Therefore, the second half of a key pair is referred to as public key. Note that anyone can encrypt something using the recipient's public key, but only recipients with their private key can decrypt. Do we get that? So we use public key to encrypt, and you use the private key to decrypt. Asymmetric key cryptography solves the problem of key distribution by allowing a message to be sent across an untrusted medium in a secure manner without overhead of prior key exchange or key material distribution. So like the other one, because they are using a single key, right? We are saying you cannot use that same key to encrypt and still send that same key using an internet. So you have to use out-of-band distribution to send that key to the person that is trying to decrypt the message. But yeah, you don't have to, right? The person will be the one to send their public key, and the public key is public to anyone, right? Anyone can access it. So immediately you have the message, since the private key is with you and it's being secure, so we just use your private key to actually decrypt the message or the information. So the problem, however, is that asymmetric cryptography is extremely slow as compared to symmetric counterparts. It is slow. Asymmetric is slow because they have some algorithm within them that is more bigger than that of symmetric, right? So asymmetric cryptography is impractical for everyday use in encrypting large amounts of data or for frequent transactions where speed is required. This is because asymmetric cryptography handles much larger keys and is mathematically intensive. So they are just like what an opposite. Like that one, asymmetric can encrypt bulk, bulky, encryption. It can handle bulky encryption, but this cannot. That one is fast and this one is slow. So below is an example that illustrates the use of asymmetric cryptography to achieve different security attributes. The two keys, which is the private and the public key, are a key pair. They come in hand. Immediately you generate the key, you have your private and your public key together. So they must be used together. This means that any message that is encrypted with a public key can only be decrypted using the recipient's private key, right? Similarly, signing a message with a sender private key can only be verified by the recipient decrypting signature with the sender's public key. So only the receiver with the private key will be able to open or read the message, providing confidentiality. This is the plain text. Then this is the encryption using the public key, right, of the sender. Then it will be converted to cybertext. Then they will decrypt it using the recipient's private key. So let's check hashing. Hashing takes an input set of data of almost arbitrary size and return a fixed length result called the hash value. Right? They will give you the hash value of the software, right? In a value, they present it to you in a value. The hash function is the algorithm used to perform this transformation. What do you understand by algorithm? Okay. So you're a software engineer now. Explain, help us with algorithm.
When you write a set of code that it is so it's technical, not so focused, but can do three tasks. So that's what it is.
So that I'll go with his definition. It's more, your own is so hashes have many uses in computing and security. One of which is to create message digest or MD by applying such a hash function to the plain text body of a message, then to give you hash value. So hashing puts data through a hash function or algorithm to create an alphanumeric set of figures called a digest. That means nothing to people who might view it no matter. Okay, view it. So no matter how long the input is, the hash digest will be the same number of characters. So if you try to actually edit any message after you've seen the hash function or the hash value of the message that you're trying to hash, right? Immediately you go into that message and you change anything or you edit anything, the hash function or the hash value will change. So if you input, plain text and you change it to hash value of 35, if another person access that same file and change anything, that 35 will not be 35 again. The hash value can be 40 or something. So that will actually indicate that it has been altered with, right? Any minor change in the input, it can be maybe misspelling or uppercase or lowercase, we create a completely different hash digest. So you can use the hash digest to confirm the input exactly, that the input exactly matches what is expected or required. So a good example is a password. So to be useful and secure, a cryptographic hash function must demonstrate 5 main properties. The first one is usefulness. So it is easy to compute the hash value for any given message. The other one is non-reversible. That's hashing for you. You cannot, when we are talking about encryption, we can decrypt. If you encrypt, you can decrypt. But in the hash case, when you encrypt, you can't reverse. It has been encrypted forever. So it's non-reversible. So it is computationally infeasible to reverse the hash process, or otherwise derive the original plain text of the message from its hash value. You can only see the hash value, but you can't convert it back to the plain text. Also, content integrity assured. That's another thing that hashing achieved. It makes your information more integrity. So it actually tells you that, okay, this data, the integrity of this data is assured. So also uniqueness. It is computationally infeasible to find 2 or more different sensible messages that hash to the same value. It is impossible. So when you have a hash function, right, it is unique. You cannot have it twice. Once you've hashed that information and you try to change it again, you can't have the same hash value again. It is impossible. Also, it must be deterministic. The same input we always generated the same hash when using the same hashing algorithm. Cryptographic hash function have many uses in information security, including digital signature, message authentication codes, and other form of authentication. So this is where you can actually use cryptography. Maybe you are trying to sign digital signature, maybe through your email or message authentication code. You're trying to send an OTP to someone, you can use hashing, right? So they also can be used for fingerprinting to detect duplicate data or uniquely identified files, and as checksums to detect accidental data corruption. The operation of the hash algorithm is demonstrated in this figure. So this is the plain text. This is the message. It's been hashed. And this is the original digest. So this is the receiver end. Then it will just go like that. So if there is any man in the middle between this guy and that guy is able to actually have this information and change anything or edit anything from this message, the hash value will change. It won't be the same as the original hash value. So if this guy contacts this guy, that's the hash value that I'm seeing here is 25. And the guy said, no, I sent 24. So that means the integrity of the message has been compromised. So that means the message is not safe. So that means someone has tampered with the message in between you guys. So in this example, the originator wants to send a message to the receiver and ensure that the message is not altered by noise or lost packets as it is transmitted. The originator runs the message through a hashing algorithm that generates a digest of the message. Right? That means it gives the person the hash value. The digest is appended to the message and sent together with the message to the recipient. That's okay, the message that I'm trying to give, the hash value is 35. It will be sent with the message. Once the message is delivered, the receiver will generate their own digest of the received message using the same hashing algorithm, right? So the digest of the received message is compared with the digest sent by the originator if they are the same. But if they are not the same, that means the message has been tampered, and that means the integrity of the message has been compromised. So if the digests are the same, the received message is the same as the sent message. So the problem with a simple hash function like this is that it does not protect against a malicious attacker who will be able to change both the message and the hash or digest by intercepting it in transit. So the general idea of a cryptographic hash function can be summarized with the following formula. So this is the plain text, forks. Someone wrote forks, and they use some cryptographic hash function to give us this message digest. This is what you will see after you've been hashed the message, right? This is the mathematical algorithm that we showed you. So if you change anything, maybe you change the capital F to small f, this will change. It won't be the same. Or you change the small x to capital X, the digest will change. So that will indicate that the message has been compromised or tampered with in between. So for this example, the red fox jumps over the blue dog. This is the hash function, the digest. Now someone changes the U, the V to U here, right? Someone tampered with the message and changed the V to U. Then you can see that the digest is not the same thing again. It has been changed. Do we get that? Like it has been changed. So this will indicate that this is not the original message. That something is happening, right? Or maybe someone misspelled the overall spelling, maybe over, so something like this. The hash function also will change, right? So that will indicate that the integrity of the message has been compromised in between. So let's discuss how passwords work. Often passwords will be stored as a fixed hash value or digest so that the system can tell whether your password matches without the password itself ever being visible, right? When you're trying to create a password, right? So maybe you are trying to authenticate to Google, right? So the Google web server has your password. There's a way that it will detect or try to compare if your password is right or wrong. Immediately you create a password, it's being stored at their own database somewhere, right? You have the copy, they have the copy, right? Immediately you are trying to authenticate into that portal, right? The system will compare the password you are trying to input with the one it has at their own end. If it matches, then fine, it will authenticate you. But if it doesn't, then it will deny you. That's how password works. So a more secure password with alphanumeric and special characters will generate a different type of hash digest. However, if this system of password management is already becoming obsolete, often for security purpose, you will be asked to generate a new password with a minimum number of characters, and the software behind it will recognize the hash function and tell you whether the password is sufficiently secure. So when you are trying to actually create some, login, it will tell you that you should input the capital letter, try to input small letter, try to input number, just make it alphanumeric and maybe 24 bits long or something like that. So attackers use password hashes to guess password offline. So all of our system, like our laptop, has our password somewhere safe in the system. So if an attacker is able to actually compromise your system, they can actually go to that location and try to actually steal or take out your hash or your password hash, right? They will take it offline and try to actually break it to make sense of the type of password you are using. If an attacker can copy the hash password file from a compromised workstation or a server, and they know the algorithm that is used to hash the password, then the attacker can use a computer to generate random sequences of letters and number combination to match the known password hash. So do we have any question before we move to system admin? Any question? So let's check what we mean by system admin. Also had our system. So admin is the process of applying secure configuration to reduce attack surface and lock down various hardware, communication system, and software. Yesterday we were talking about some embedded system not being able to actually send some updates or patch, to them. So that's actually make it insecure. But admin in this case is trying to make sure that, your system meets the baseline, the security baseline, right? Try to actually block the ports that you don't need, the services that you don't need, take it out. The unsecure ports, try to close them, right? So just make sure that everything that you are going to do within the system is what you only need to do. Like all the services that you don't need, make sure they are out of sight because they will add to the attack surface if you leave them to actually dance over there. So in this module, you will review configuration management practices that will ensure systems are installed and maintained according to industry and organization security standards. So configuration management overview. So configuration management is a process and discipline used to ensure that the only changes made to a system are those that have been authorized and validated, right? So there are some security baseline to every almost devices or software that we use today. So Microsoft has their security baseline to Windows 10, Windows 11, how to make sure that you meet the baseline, the minimum requirement security that should be in place for your system, right? So if you go online and you go to, NIST or some standard as well on the security baseline of that particular software you are trying to secure, you will see a policy for it that will tell you that, okay, when you implement or when you buy this device, make sure you put this thing in place. Make sure you close this thing. Make sure you change the default username or credentials. So it is both a decision-making process and a set of control processes. If you look more closely at the definition, the basic configuration management processes include components such as identification, baseline, updates, and patches. So these are the elements that is embedded in configuration management. So this is configuration management. Then we have identification. Make sure you identify the type of patch you are trying to apply or the type of baseline you are using, right? Then we have the baseline. That's the minimum security that must be in place before you can run your system. Then we have change control. If anything is being changed in your system, how do you want to know? Then verification and audit. So let's take this one after the other. We have identification. So this is the baseline identification of a system and all its components, interfaces, and documentation. So baseline, a security baseline is a minimum level of protection used as a reference point, right? So you will use them to actually contrast and compare what you have in your organization. So we have change control as well. This is an update process for requesting changes to a baseline by changing one or more components in that baseline. Then we have verification and audit. So this is a regression and validation processes, which may involve testing and analysis to verify that nothing in the system was broken by a nearly applied set of changes. So effective use of configuration management gives system owners or the operators, support team, and security professionals another important set of tools to monitor and oversee the configuration of the organization devices, network, application, and projects. So an organization may mandate the configuration of equipment through standard and baseline. Like I said, we have some standards that you can follow to put, your system at the minimum security baseline that they need to operate. So which can ensure that network devices or your software or your hardware are consistently configured and that all such devices are compliant with the organization security baseline. So let's check inventory. So making an inventory, catalog, or registry of all the organization information assets is the first step in any asset management process. You want to, know everything you have within that organization. You want to have the inventory of all your assets somewhere, right? That's the first step. So it requires that you locate and identify all assets of interest, including and especially the information assets. Like we said, you can't protect what you don't know or what you cannot see. Then we have baseline. So IT department manages the configuration of network appliances, servers, end user computers, and corresponding firmware and application. A literal total of millions or billions of possible configuration. Even a commercial software product might have thousands of individual modules, processes, parameters, and initialization files or other elementary. If any of them is missing, the system cannot function correctly or may cause a security weakness. So a baseline requires a total inventory of all system components that can be hardware, software, data, admin, control, documents, and etc. So when protecting assets, baseline can be particularly helpful in achieving a minimum protection level of those assets based on value. That is, if assets have been classified based on value, a meaningful baseline have been established for each of the classification levels, we can establish a minimum level of security required for each levels. Then updates. Repairs, maintenance actions, and updates are frequently required on almost all levels of system elements, from basic infrastructure to operating system, application platform, networks, and user interface. Such modification can be acceptance tested to verify the newly installed or repaired functionality works are required. So most of the update has been sent when there is new feature or when they think their software has been, hacked, or they find out some bug inside their software, then they can send out the updates to actually correct it. Then we have patches. We have patch management. So patch management mostly applies to software and hardware devices that are subject to regular modification. A patch is an update. It can be that you upgrade or you modify a system or component of the system. Generally, patches addresses a vulnerability or improve functionality. That's why we use patch, to address a vulnerability or to improve functionality. Why security professionals worldwide support timely patching? Patches have been known to introduce vulnerabilities. For example, during the well-known SolarWinds attack, many organizations were adversely impacted by a flawed patch from the reputable vendor that affected system functionality. I don't know, maybe we've heard about the incident, the SolarWinds attack there. So that SolarWinds is like all these are SIM, they are like a vendor. So they supply, they're like a supply chain. So major, vendors, they supply to Microsoft, so even to some FBIs, they give them some, decentralized location where they can manage their devices. So now the attacker, what they did was that they hacked the supply chain itself, the SolarWinds. They hacked them. When they hack them, they have access to all the vendors they are supplying, services to. So they were able to hack thousands of companies by just, hacking someone that is actually supplying them services. And up to this moment, the hack is still ongoing. They've been unable to actually patch everything. Like they hacked FBI through SolarWinds. So like then it was crazy. They don't even know what to do. And those people they came out and they be like, they are the one that actually did it. You know, it's like that. That's how hacking works. So they asked them, and up to this moment, SolarWinds are still trying to actually patch all the vulnerability. So that's why most of our computers and everything we are seeing out there, most of them, like 98, has been hacked already. 98% of what we are not secure. So we are not secure. And except you will not use all these devices. You stop using phone, you stop using laptop, you stop using, except if you can do that, you'll be secure. But without doing that, you are somewhere is trying to actually, maybe someone is in your system or using it to actually attack some people. If a patch does not work on the application as unacceptable consequences, it may be necessary to roll back to a previous pre-patch state. So if the patch you are sending out or you are sending out to people doesn't work, right? So you can roll it back. So typically, the criteria for rollback have been documented and will automatically perform when the rollback criteria were met, right? Many vendors offer a patch management solution for their products. These systems often have certain automated processes or unattended updates that allow the patching of system without interaction from the admin. So unattended or automated patching might result in unscheduled outages as production systems are taken offline or rebooted as part of the patch process. So the risk of using unattended patching should be weighted, should be weighed against the risk of having unpatched system in the organization network. So most of the time, the patch or the update has been sent because they think something is ongoing. So you don't want to actually take time. So whenever you see it, just click it and update your system immediately. This is risk of change. So a robust change management process must be in place and testing undertaken a model environment for any change in the production or life environment. So there are some organizations that if Microsoft try to roll out their patch or their updates, they have a sandbox somewhere where they can actually go and test that patch of updates to make sure that it doesn't come with any vulnerability or any risk. So they will take you to the sandbox and try. So sandbox, you can just think of sandbox like an isolated area, right? So they will take it there and try to test all the features and make sure that that patch or the update doesn't come with any vulnerability that can put their system at risk. Even with the extensive planning and testing, there are sometimes unintended consequences. So you must make sure there is a rollback plan that if anything occurs, you just take that patch back. So a rollback means restoring a system to the state it was in before the change was made, during which it was working properly. So a rollback plan is important in an environment, or it is critical for those who are unable to fully test the change. Any question? Do you have any question? So let's check best practice security policy. This is the overview. So an organization's security policies define what security means to that organization, which in almost all cases reflects the trade-off between security, operability, affordability, and potential risk impact. So security policies express or impose behavioral or other constraints on the system and its uses. Well-designed system operating within these constraints should reduce the potential of security breaches to an acceptable level. So we have security governance. So security governance that does not align properly with organizational goals can lead to implementation of security policies and decisions that unnecessarily inhibit productivity, impose undue cost, and hinder strategic intent. These are the common security policies that we have. So here are 6 common security related policies that exist in most organizations. The first one is policy on how to handle data. So the policy on how to handle data. So this aspect of a security policy defines whether the data is for use within the company, is restricted for use by only certain rules, or can be made public to anyone outside the organization. So the company will be the one to decide on that. So in addition, some data has associated legal usage definition. The organization policy should spell out any legal restrictions or refer to legal definition as required when trying to write the security policy. Proper data classification helps organization comply with pertinent laws and regulations. For example, classifying credit card data as confidential can help ensure compliance with PCI DSS, as we know. So they are in charge of payment cards. So they have their own policy on how to handle data. So if you want to follow PCI DSS standard on how to handle data, then you download their policy online on how to handle that data. So one of the requirements of this standard is to encrypt credit card information. It's one of the things you will find in PCI DSS security policy. They will tell you that all your customers, credit card must be encrypted. Then, after data handling policy, we have password policy. How to handle our password. Policy on how to handle password. So every organization should have a password policy that defines expectations of systems and users. So the password policy should describe senior leadership commitment to ensuring secure access to data, outline any standard that the organization has selected for password formulation, and identify who is designated to enforce and validate the policy. So each organization have the way that they handle their password. So a company will tell you that your password may be 12, alphanumeric long, or some will say it is 24, some will say it is 6. So it is left for such organization to decide. So here are some examples of what that password policy might include. These are the password creation. All user and admin password must be of a certain length. So password cannot be the same or like other passwords used on any other website, system, application, or personal accounts. So there are some organizations that will tell you that you can only use password once. And if you use that password, you cannot reuse it forever. So password should not be a single word or a commonly used phrase. So avoid passwords that are easy to guess, such as the names and birthday of friends and family, favorite bands, or catchphrase you like to use. Also, dictionary words and phrases should be avoided. So default installation password must be changed immediately after installation is complete. Right? There are some devices that come with default credentials like admin, administrator, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6 different places. So immediately we install those devices, make sure you change the default credential from the default password and user to something more complicated. Then we have password aging. So user passwords must be changed on a schedule established by the organization. Previously used password may not be reused. So system level passwords must be changed according to a schedule established by the organization too. Then we have password protection. Passwords must not be shared with anyone. even IT staff or supervisors, and must not be reviewed or sent electronically. Do not write down your passwords. There are some companies that you will go and you will see their system. They will just put the notepad, they write their password there. Then we have AUP policy. That's acceptable use policy. What is accepted in the organization? So they put it down in policy for you. So the acceptable use policy defines acceptable use of the organization network and computer systems and can help protect the organization from legal action. So they will tell you that when you are using our system, don't go to this website, don't type this thing, don't do that. So those are what is accepted within the organization. So it should be detailed, or it should detail the appropriate and approved usage of organization assets, including the IT environment, devices, and data. So each employee or anyone having access to the organization's assets should be required to sign a copy of the AUP, acceptable use policy, and both parties should keep a copy of that, so that if you don't follow that policy, then you will bear the consequences that comes with it. So these are the policy aspects commonly included in AUPs. Data access will be there. System access, on how to access their system will be there. Data disclosure, what data can you disclose? The password policy will be there. The data retention, how long you can retain people or customers' data will be in AUP. Internet usage, like how many gig can you use in a day? Now, there are some people that if you leave them with your company data, even if you have 70 terabytes, it won't take them 2 days to use everything out for. Sorry. So I think we've actually discussed about bring your own device before this class. So it has its own policy too. So basically, the bring your own device policy will just be, okay, well, fine. You are allowed to bring your policy, your devices or your system to the organization, but you are not permitted to go to this website using your device, or you are not, encouraged to do some certain things, even though it is your device, you are not permitted to do some things. So they will just put it in paper for you and you sign an agreement. Okay, that's fine. I will not do all of those things. So an organization may allow workers to acquire equipment of their choosing and use personally owned equipment for business and personal use. This is sometimes called bring your own device. Letting employee chooses the device that is most comfortable for them may be good for employee morale, but it presents additional challenges for the security professional because it means the organization loses some control over the standardization and privacy. Because if you let the staff, have all the information of the company in their device, so that means they can take that device to their house with your, assets, with your organization assets. And that can actually impose some security risks to the data, to the organization. So it's like another attack vector, allowing your employee to take the company assets to their house. So if employees are allowed to use their phones and laptops for both personal and business use, this can pose a challenge if, for example, the device must be examined for a forensic audit. So it can be hard to ensure that the device is configured securely and does not have any backdoors or other vulnerability that could be used to access organization data or systems. What if the device that the staff is bringing to your network has been hacked before, and you allow them to bring it to your organization? You allow them to bring vulnerability to the secure network. So that means they can hack you through those devices. So recent innovations in mobile operating system and software have introduced methods to segregate company data from personal data, which lessens the risk to the organizational data on the personal device. All employees must read and agree to adhere to a bring your own device policy before any access to the system, network, and or data is allowed. So they will read through the paper and decide that okay, fine, we can actually cope with that policy. Let's go. Then they will sign it. So certainly the appropriate tools will be necessary to manage the use of and security around bring your own devices. So there's a Microsoft software that can actually manage BYOD. Now, all the BYOD in your network will be logged at that segment. Then you can monitor everything that they are doing, even from their house. Then we have privacy policy. Often, personnel have access to PII. So, personnel, that means the staff of the company, they have access to the PII, people's PII. So it is imperative that an organization document that personally understands and acknowledges the organization policy and procedure for handling of PII are aware of the legal repercussion of handling such sensitive data. So this type of documentation is like the AUP, but it's specific to privacy-related data. So the organization's privacy policy should stipulate which information is considered personal identifiable information or electronic personal health information. So the appropriate handling procedure and mechanism used by the organization, how the user is expected to perform in accordance with the stated policy and procedures, any enforcement mechanism and punitive measures for failure to comply, as well as reference to applicable regulation and laws to which the organization is subject to. So the privacy policy, right? All the staff, all the employees will have the copy or read through the copy that, okay, we are handling people personally identifiable information. And this is the standard that speaks to that. And if you are unable to actually comply with that standard, this is the charge, this is the fine for the company. So please make sure you comply with this policy. So this can include national and international laws, such as the GDPR in the EU that we discussed yesterday, and Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act, so which operates in Canada. Laws for specific industry in certain countries, such as EPA and Gramm-Leach Delay Act, GLBA, in the US. All of these, they speak to the policy and the standards of what you are dealing with. If you are dealing with card, you are going to use you are going to use, what's it called? So if you are dealing with, if you are dealing with cards, you are going to use what's it called? PCI DSS, yeah. Or you are dealing with people health information, so we are doing with PHI, CDI. So organizations should create a public document that explain how private information is used, both internally and externally. For example, it may be required that a medical provider present patients with a description of how the provider will protect their information with reference to where they can find this description, such as the provider's website. So change management policy, if there is any change in the organization, these are the policies you have to read, right? So change management is the discipline of transitioning from the current state to a future state. It consists of 3 major activities: deciding to change, making the change, and confirming that the change has been correctly accomplished. So change management focuses on making the decision to change and result in approval for system support teams, developers, and end users to start making directed alterations. So policies will be set according to the organization's needs, vision, and mission. Each policy should have a penalty or consequences for non-compliance. The first time may be written warning, right? The next might be a forced leave of absence or suspension without pay, and a critical violation would even result in an employee immediate termination to violate any of this policy. That would be the penalty. So let's see change management components. Change management is comprised of 3 primary steps. First, the request for change, followed by the approval process, which is followed by the rollback plan. So this is the first one, requesting for the change. It's been approved or disapproved, and this is the rollback. So request for change. Let's take request for change or documentation. All major change management practices address a common set of core activity that starts with a request for change, RFC, and move through various development and test stages until the change is released to the end users. From first to last, each step is subject to some form of formalized management and decision making. Each step produces accounting or log entry to document results. So approval. This process typically includes evaluating the request for changes for completeness, assignment to the proper change authorization process based on risk and organizational practices, stakeholder reviews, appropriate approval or rejection, and also documentation of approval or rejection. Then we have rollback. So depending upon the nature of the change, the varieties of activities may need to be completed. This generally includes scheduling the change. When do you want the change to occur? Testing the change. So before running the change to everyone, you want to test it yourself. Verifying the rollback procedures, implementing the change, then evaluating the change for proper and effective operation. Then you have to document the change in the production environment. So rollback authority will generally be defined in the rollback plan, which might be immediate or scheduled as a subsequent change if monitoring of the change suggests inadequate performance. So we have change management components in the workplace. So change management happens in cycle. There is no real stopping point. It is continuously going. So this means that there must be continuous monitoring of that environment. So if you or anyone should request a change, it needs to go through the appropriate approval. It must be approved. So the organization must be prepared for rollback if necessary, meaning that if that change did not work, you need to be able to roll back to the legacy system. That means the former state it was. So why change management is an organization-wide process? It often falls on information security professional to coordinate the effort and maybe to provide oversight and governance. So depending on organization size, change management also may fall under IT, a project management office, or a quality or risk management department. So supporting security policy with procedures. So different organizations have different goals for their acceptable use policy, AUP. Some organizations encourage employees to make wide personal use of the organization's assets to improve morale and reduce interruption between the user's personal life and work. Some organizations encourage the use of organizational assets to perform personal educational tasks. We just leave you to go with their system, their assets, and to do with whatever you want it to. So this way, the employee gets the benefits of the assets, and the organization gets a higher trained and happier employee. Some organizations severely limit users' personal use of IT assets to reduce risk within the organization. So all security-related policies should align with organizational risk tolerance while ensuring that regulatory requirements are met. An organization that does not store confidential data on a laptop or workstation is likely to be more relaxed in its acceptable use policy. They just be like, well, we are not storing any PII, so we don't need to follow any policy. While a healthcare facility, research institution, or defense contractor may be more stricter as they have data that can be potentially devastating if compromised. So let's understand security awareness training. think it's 10:42. Okay, maybe we should take it then. Still have like 15 minutes to go. So let's see security awareness overview. So raising the cyber literacy of all people, especially your employees, goes a long way in securing information and systems. You have to gather all your employees and decide to actually train them on what is going on in the cyberspace, right? Letting them know what they need to do daily, right? So the security team can't watch over the shoulder of everyone with access to your information and systems, right? That's why to reduce the effectiveness of certain types of attacks, such as social engineering, it is crucial that organizations inform employees and contractors about how to recognize security problems and how to operate in a secure manner. So you have to put your employees into a training on how to actually deal with your assets. Security awareness training is undertaken so that employees know what is expected of them based on their responsibility and accountabilities, as well as they uncover ignorance, carelessness, or complacency that will pose a risk to the organization. So through training, organizations can align information security goals with their mission and vision. So what is security awareness training? So there are three types of learning activities the organization use, whether for information security or for any other purpose. The first one is education. So the overall goal of education is to help learners improve their understanding of the ideas and their ability to relate them to their own experiences and apply that learning in useful ways. That's one way that organization train their employees by education, by educating them on what they have to do. Then by putting them under training, right? This focuses on building proficiency in a specific set of skills or actions, including sharpening the perception and judgment needed to select and apply those skills. Then also by security awareness or awareness generally. So let's take security awareness training example. So education may help workers in a secure server room to understand the interaction of various fire and smoke detector, suppression system, alarms, and the interaction with electrical power, lighting, and ventilation system. So putting them under education will let them know how to actually use those things or how to activate them or how to actually monitor all of those things. Also, training will provide those workers with task-specific, detailed learning about the proper action each should take in the event of an alarm. So a suppression system going off without an alarm, a ventilation system failure, or other contingency. This training will build on learning acquired via the educational activities. So they can learn all of these things by putting them under training. Then awareness activities would include not only posting the appropriate signal, signage, floor, or doorway markings, but also other indicators to help workers detect an anomaly, respond to an alarm, and take appropriate action. So in this case, awareness is a constantly available reminder of what to do when the alarm goes off. So basically, awareness can be in any form, right? So you can try to be reminding staff maybe every week. You just be sending like an email or something popping up in their screen, telling them that, okay, this is what you have to do if this kind of things occur in the organization. So this is what you do. This is the step you can take, right? So translating all of this into an artificial campaign might be done as follows. Education to help select group better understand how social engineering attacks are conducted and engage those employees in creating and testing their own strategies for improving their defensive techniques. Training to help users increase the proficiency in recognizing a potential phishing. At least we all know the meaning of phishing by now, right? Yeah. Or similar attempts, while also practicing the correct responses to such events. So training may include simulated phishing email. So they will just send a sample of phishing attack or email to all the staffs to actually check out who is going to, which among of the staff is going to click that kind of email, right? If they see, so basically those employees that actually click that kind of link will actually be taken under training again. That when you see this type of email, you don't click, you report to the IT team. Then raising users' overall awareness of the threat posed by phishing, phishing, SMS phishing, also called smishing. So these are the type of social engineering relating to phishing, right? So phishing is using phone, calling someone, trying to lure them to reveal sensitive information, right? By manipulating them that, okay, I'm from Microsoft. I noticed that your Microsoft, this thing is not working. Please, I will send you a code, an OTP now. Please, when I send it, just call it out for me. Meanwhile, you just want to use that code actually to hack your system. Then they will call you back. Have you sent the code? You say, yes, okay, call the code. You call the code and boom, they hack you. And it can be through, okay, the phishing is through email. The phishing is through voice by calling. The smishing is by SMS, right? They will send an SMS and try to tell you that, okay, something like this from this vendor or from Access Bank, that they notice that, they are deducting 50 now from your account, that they want to help you to find a solution to that. That you should send your username, your password, the number in front of your card, then the 3 number at the back of your card. That's what they will use to actually help you out. So those are the tactics that is used by social engineers. So let's look at some common risks while it's important to include them in your security awareness training program. So let's take phishing. The use of phishing attacks to target individuals, entire departments, and even companies is a significant threat that the security professional must be aware of and prepared to defend against. So countless variations on the basic phishing attack have appeared in recent years, leading to a variety of attacks that are deployed relentlessly against individuals and networks. The stream of emails, phone calls, spam, instant message, video. These are the ways that you can actually carry out phishing attacks. So phishing attacks that attempt to trick highly placed officials or private individuals with sizable assets into authorizing large fund wire transfer. So previously unknown entities are known as winning attacks. So this type of attacks, they focus on, the top level management, because they are whales, they have some sensitive information within them. So they will focus on them so as to lure them to review some sensitive information. And when they review it, we just hack them. So social engineering. So social engineering is an important part of any security awareness training program for one very simple reason. Bad actors know that social engineering works. For the cyber attacker, social engineering is an inexpensive investment with a potential high payoff. So social engineering applied over time can extract significant insider knowledge about almost any organization or individual. So most social engineering techniques are not new. Many have even been taught as basic feedcraft for espionage agency and are part of the repertoire of investigative technique used by the police detective. A short list of tactics that we see across cyberspace currently include phone phishing, which is not our phishing. So this is done using phone call. Pretexting. So the human equivalent of phishing, where someone impersonates an authority figure or a trusted individual to gain access to login information. So the pretexter may claim to be an IT support worker who is doing maintenance or an investigator performing a complaint audit. So, or they might impersonate a co-worker, the police, the tax authority, or another similarly legitimate person. The goal is to gain access to computer and information. That's their goal. Quid pro quo. This is a request for password or login credential in exchange for some compensation. They will ask you for your username and your password, and they tell you that, okay, tell them they are going to give you this kind of gift. So it can be for a monetary payment or access to an online game service. Then we have tailgating. So tailgating, the practice of following an authorized person or an employee that have an authorized key to a server room. You will follow that person. And when the person is trying to close the door, you just hold the door. Please let me, I want to enter. I'm not with my key. And they will allow you. That's a typical example of tailgating, right? So social engineering works because it plays on human tendencies. This is not mentioned, right? They say the weakest link in IT or in system is human. No, we are emotional human beings. So you can easily be lured to reveal some sensitive information. So education, training, and awareness work best to counter or defend against social engineering because they help people realize that every person in the organization plays a role in information security. So we have password protection. I think we've taken this the other time. So this is password advice and examples. So if a password is 10 digits, right? Using software with cryptographic calculation to brute force attack an environment, it takes 5 seconds to crack. When you are using a 10 digits and they want to use brute force to hack or to crack that password, it only takes them 5 seconds to crack your password. We are using a 16-character password with one uppercase and one special character. For example, it is much more secure. So to crack a 16-character password, we take about 152,000 years. But there are some quantum computer that we only break it in the next 1 minute now, seconds. So, see, there is nothing that is safe. Don't let me deceive you. Everybody is just trying. Because, like, I can't imagine now trying to roll out this quantum computer. You know, this quantum computer will comes in form of system 2, laptop. So you can actually crack the password, even if they are using the old word. So they are using like 1 million characters as a password and some upper and lower and special characters. You can still crack it within a blink of an eye. So they are, the attacker too are getting wise every day. But the security personnel so are trying to get
I think once
then you can, even with that, no, they can still recover, but at least we take time. Yes. We take time. So this is best practices of security awareness training. So appropriate communication about current and potential threats keeps awareness high. So we tell your staff or your employee that, okay, this is the current, security threat that we have in IT world. Please be aware. Anytime you are seeing this kind of, notification or this kind of event, note that it is, it is threat to our organization. So make sure you call an IT team personnel to it. So among the ways to communicate are encouraging friendly competition between departments to spot the most phishing attempts or friendly reminders such as squishy stress ball that says lock your computer. There are also automatic systems that lock the computer when the user steps away. Make sure the organization's leader understand the importance of training, promoting and improving the organization information security environment. Provide the opportunity for personnel to practice what they've learned with exercises and simulations. So today we will not be able to actually, but I'll give you, like I promised, I will give you a site to actually practice how to hack. But today, I'm not sure I'll be able to take it. I'll give you a site, then we can take a look at it together next week Friday. It's just answer. So we tell you, okay, if you want to hack this thing, take this step, like that. So I will actually give you the site at the end of the class today. So go and have fun with it. So it will be a simulated environment. It's not like you are trying to hack real life people. They will give you a machine to hack, and they will give you step by step on how to hack that particular machine. That's how it works in real life. But they are not using real life. They are using a simulated environment. So if you now think you want to go into real life and hack people and they catch you, you cannot say that this child me that actually taught you how to do that. Okay. No. No, it's universal. This is universal policy. It's a universal policy that if you teach people how to hack and they hack, the person that you teach and you that teach them, you are both going to prison. So we are in class. I know we are in class, but I will tell you that it is for educational purpose. So that when they come, I'll be like, I told you that it is educational purpose. So, sure. So, but today, like I said, I will give you the sites. Then we can go through it together. Maybe you have any question next week. Then, since we are at the chapter summary, so we can just go through the summary next week, Friday. Do the exercise. Then can take the hacking course entirely. Should we do it like that? So we should leave the chapter summary next week, Friday. So this is the site. So this is it. This is the site. Then you will sign up. So for hackers, join for free. Click it. Then click join for free or learn to hack. So you can join or you can learn how to hack. So you click learn to hack. So then it will tell you that this is the journey of no return. So you can start this for free. Don't worry, it is free. Well, you will get, it's like you are trying to play Call of Duty or some games, they will now tell you when it's becoming sweetening, maybe when you are trying to hack code bank, that you have to pay maybe some certain amount. But at least they will teach you an idea, like we have an understanding of how to do that thing. But hacking is not a free thing. It's what people are, they pay for. So they will give you a free, account to practice with it. Right? So when you are done with the free and you think that I still want to go, then they can now tell you that okay, fine, if you want to pay, you can be paying $10 per month. And basically they will teach you everything you need to know on how to hack. So for me, at least there's another one, Track Me. Track Me is, okay, Track Me is even more. But I use Track Me, but I use paid version of it. I don't use free. So you can join this one too for free. They are both fun. Trust me, it will be like you are playing game, but it's not game, it's a real deal. That's how it works. Then we have also Aptech is actually offering the course, right? So ethical hacking, yes. So they are offering ethical hacking as well. I think that one is not free. That one is not free. It comes with, with money. So you have to pay some certain amount of money, then you can enroll, right? But with all of this, Track Me, Hack the Box, right? So, for example, let me just show you something. Okay, this is not everything, right? This is not everything. But trust me, you want to actually have experience in some fundamentals like networking. Trust me, you have to have some experience in networking and some experience in cybersecurity too and ethical hacking. So it's good to use hack the bug and check, but trust me, you still have to. You won't actually be serious using these tools, like paying for the course. So if you come for me, like I said, when I started, right, I actually write some certifications and I went to some academics as well. So I will actually encourage you to enroll into physical something that you have someone that will see going through all this software and trying to actually do it yourself. There are some stages that it will be difficult, that you don't even understand the language they are speaking. And you can only talk to someone that has done something like that before, that can tell you, okay, no, it's not something complicated. This is what they mean. And you'll be done with it. So I will advise you enroll into some. This is one of our networking students. We have like 3 networking students. So if you actually want to excel in cybersecurity, you need some people and you don't want to do it alone. It will be boring. Imagine me reading this CC alone. Me that I'm reading it out for yourself. It's boring to me. I'm having a headache myself already. So now imagine sitting alone, reading those things yourself. And we are taking this course like this because it is free. This is not how we normally take our course. Our students will take out their system and we show them how it works in life. So I will advise you register into some courses. So if you can start with networking or you are interested in networking, so you can, pay for it. And I think it's not something, it's something you can actually, a month you can sacrifice to be candid, than a month you can sacrifice to actually get multiple of that in future. Because if you are sitting alone yourself in the room and you're trying to do hack the box or chat me, you still might not actually understand how it works in real life. Right? But for like this, it will be like game, like you are playing game. So that is how it works in real life. It will be fun, you enjoy it, but you still need some people, to tell you that, okay, fine, in real life, can see it like this also. Things like this happens like some years ago, and that's how they solve the problem. So I will advise you enroll into some courses here in Aptech. Also, you can take a networking course, cybersecurity, or ethical hacking. Trust me, it will be fun. So this, try to register. Maybe you are registering already, right? And they giving you will see an email. They'll send an email to you. You've sent the email. So then you can use the login to actually access the hardware box. Then you can go ahead and explore. Trust me. If you actually put your mind, you can do it.